Hello everyone and welcome to What's New in Nimbus Maps. My name is Andrew Green. I'm the Customer Success Director here at Nimbus Maps. And today's session is all about the release that we introduced this week, which has brought a whole host of sort of changes more to the look and feel. Basically, we've gave that a big update and there's more coming with that. This is the sort of first of sort of three biggish updates that are coming over the next few months. This one focused more on the look and the feel, making it more intuitive, easier to use. And for any existing users, obviously I'll help you sort of talk through those changes, understand where they are. So if there's something that's maybe moved, then you'll obviously have a better understanding of where that is. And for new people, this is probably just a bit more of an introduction to Nimbus Maps and a bit more of what it can and can't do, really. The plan will be to sort of run through that for sort of half an hour or so, just quickly talking through some of the new bits. Do feel free to post questions in the chat or in the Q&A section. But what I'll do is I'll wait till the end and I'll go through all those questions. We've got plenty of time to go through them all and make sure there's any questions being asked. And I will run through details of the offer. I know we're getting a lot of inquiries at the moment around the offer and everything else like that. So I'll give you all those details shortly. So without further ado, let's jump into the platform. And for the eagle-eyed, you'll see this is actually an example of the older version. And we can jump into the newer version now, which I suppose, we can start with the search area here. You can now see we have sort of two buttons up here. So previously had a lot of questions around, well, we can see where the polygons are. How do we get rid of those off the map and all of that kind of stuff? Well, there's multiple ways of doing that now. So, to be honest, I will just pick somewhere. We're not really doing any sort of site searching. Let's just go to Oxford, right in the middle of the southern half of the country, and we end up here in the middle of Oxford. Obviously, same way as before, searching pretty much works like Google, so you can search whatever you like and it will then take you to where that is, just like Google Maps. As before, you can sort of move around and press this search here button and it recenters the polygon, so now we can find out who owns this particular college, which unsurprisingly is Queen's College, given you've got the Google label there. But what we can do now is if you are sort of saying, well, hold on a minute, it's all getting a bit sort of crowded for me. I didn't really want to do a sort of search around here. Then we have this clear search button, confirm that, and it's taken all that search back off again now. And then, as we move around again, we say, right, okay, I do want to bring everything up again. We can bring it onto the map. Now, the other thing you'll notice is the eye icon, which I'll come on to in a second. That's another way of changing these. The final bit on the search is the boundary search. We've just updated this, and it's now basically much easier to use as you're going around. So if we want to draw a boundary, let's just say, we want to search around here. I doubt we're going to see much here, but there's our boundary search. We can type in our name, or if we've got it wrong, we can cancel it, all of that kind of stuff. So in this instance, Oxford, for example, save and search, and it's found clearly Magdalen College here, which, there's not a lot. So that's probably not a great example, but you get the idea in terms of that sort of boundary search. I'll tell you what, if I pick one of these, it will give you, we'll show you what that looks like. So this basically then, you can select a particular area that you want to search, and then it will just search in that sort of unique shape for that particular search. So that's in this boundary section here. Obviously, still got the company search. That's where you put in a company name and it will find all their properties. And then you just your normal, usual search there as well. Now, we'll use this location. Brings me nicely onto the eye icon. The eye icon Previously, it was just more to sort of tell you about different icons that were on the map, whereas now you hover over those icons and it will give you that information as to what that icon is on the map. So we can see these orange U pins here. They basically refer to unregistered property, unregistered land, which basically means that these houses here haven't changed hand in the last probably 30, 35 years, because any houses since then have had to have been registered with land registry electronically, and therefore we'd have an electronic copy of that register. Unfortunately, there'll just be a paper copy somewhere in that house. But with these, rather than sort of, sometimes it was all in the filters before about where you sort of toggle things on and off and all of that, we've brought it all into this eye icon now. So this is almost your sort of ability now to toggle what you see on and off the map. So if we don't want to see the U pins, we can just toggle those off by clicking on the U pin there. Likewise, we've got some leaseholds here as well, these L pins. We can just toggle those off now. The other interesting thing, so like I say, you've got the clear search if you want to get rid of the search completely. But if you're just looking around and thinking, well, hold on a minute, let me just move those polygons out the way, but I still want them to stay there to come back to at a later date, then obviously we can just toggle this now, which this is your map polygons. This moves them off the map, but crucially, the difference between clear search means you completely sort of reset again. This means we can just toggle them back on again, and it will redisplay the polygons. So if you're just trying to sort of maybe check a boundary or something, and you think, well, hold on, let me see what it looks like with the Google imaging, then you can just toggle it on and off as you see fit. Likewise, with all the Google labels, so you can see there's basically 3 states to the Google labels. Its current state, which is all of the labels. We click it once, we then end up with taking all the pins off, but we still keep the road names, so we can get a bit of a feel for where we actually are around within this location. But then if you want complete clarity, we can toggle that off altogether. So then we click it once more and we've got rid of all of the Google pins completely, which, unless you know the area very well, is then a bit more difficult to understand exactly where you are. But like I said, you can just simply click that again. It will go back to that first state, all of the labels on, all of the pins, and then we can keep cycling around to find that right level for what we're after. Which personally, I think that sort of middle one seems to be the sort of the best balance between the two. So yeah, hopefully a lot more straightforward now. Again, we can just toggle everything back on. Whoops, there we go. And we're back to that normal usual view. So it's a bit more straightforward and just customizing exactly what you can and can't see when you're looking around the map. It's just then keep coming back to this right-hand side, toggling on and off whatever you choose to want on the map. Hopefully a lot more straightforward. I think previously it was in the filter section, and it was just getting a bit confusing. You were sort of filtering down, you know, the filters are more about seeing what these polygons give you and finding the right kind of property, whereas a lot of these sort of pins and everything are more just sort of bits on top of that. So then we've moved those to the right-hand side. Within the filters section now, which is the next sort of change in look and feel, and again, for those people who are used to seeing Nimbus Maps, will see this is now looks different. We've got rid of some of those sort of preset buttons and things like that, which are all getting a bit confusing. Ultimately, all of the filters are now set out as before, with this sort of property filter section. So this is then helping you sort of find those sites, narrow down, trying to find a particular use or particular size property is all in this top section here under the property filter. I mean, well, the very top one is this search radius, but that's how far and wide you're searching. So regardless of whether you do a property filter search or a sales comparable search, they're all, you know, depending on how far and wide you want to search, which is this bit at the top. You'll notice you've got the little tool tips here as well. So if you're unsure what any of these mean, when we do select them, you'll see it'll pop up with the name as well. So you'll see the full description of what you've toggled on each of these. So if we were to do an example property search here, you want to do a title area, you know, 1 to, I don't know, yeah, 2.5 acres, for example. Whoops. You can see I'm sort of moving these around, but the great thing is these are all completely editable. So we can change that to 2 or 2.5, and it will just move the filter accordingly. So it's no more sort of fiddly trying to set those exactly where you want them. You can just simply type in the figure if you can't find it. There are still sort of relative presets. So, you know, if we wanted to do 0.55, for example, it will still just average to set presets. The team are then working on a further update in the future, which will then be completely unlimited in terms of the options you've got there. But hopefully with the free text, that allows you a much more straightforward way of getting just exactly what you want. I found on the building footprint, that was particularly noticeable. So obviously when you're trying to do certainly smaller sizes, it's very difficult. You know, we work with lots of different people in the property industry, people who are looking at small shops all the way up to huge Amazon warehouses. And so then we have this quite a large range, but it did make it then difficult to try and choose these sort of smaller figures. Whereas now you can just simply say, right, we want 200 square meters, and we've set it right down to that level. So now we can find something in that sort of range. But let's set that a little bit wider. And again, property uses, just simply toggle on the ones you want, or sort of, if you want everything, just leave it toggled. Otherwise, if we say, right, let's find any sort of office and retail to convert to residential, then let's see what we can find. EPC, again, just toggle on if you want to then target particular buildings with a particular EPC rating. And then this is the company selling activity. So this is more about basically looking to target sort of big companies. Where are they? Which companies are actually selling right now? So you can say, well, look, we want to make sure that any companies we're targeting have sold at least 5 properties in the last 18 months. So I know that they're actually sort of in selling mode, as we sort of refer to it. So that's basically, we know they're likely to get a discussion around a sale of their property. Basically, if you're thinking they've only sold 0 properties in the last 18 months, they're probably not in the frame of mind to then be selling any more properties if you approach them as well. So another just tool to help you try and find that sort of willing seller. So we've set our filters here. We're going to search this a little bit wider and apply those. So, fundamentally it works in the same way. It's just that look and feel is a little bit better. So now we've pretty much searched across the whole of this sort of village here, Ensham. And again, can't quite see where they are, but luckily we've got this nice handy little tool here just to take those off. And again, let's tidy up the map as well. So we've just got the street names, and we have one property that meets all of this particular criteria here. So there's one office or retail unit that is between 0 and 1,000 square meters. That is between 0.6 and 2.5 acres as well, which we can click on here and find out, which takes us into our nice, lovely info panel, which is, again, it's basically had that same design refresh applied. Not too many changes to the way this works, more just purely a sort of design change rather than necessarily a sort of operational change. But you can see it's now much more straightforward. We've sort of tidied up a few of these little boxes through here as well. This particular property is privately owned. If we do want to find out their details, then the register and lease schedule is here. Just hover over this and it gives you an explanation of what that is. But ultimately this then adds into your basket, which then allows you to check out, charge your account £3, and you'll get emailed the PDF copy of the register. And then Nimbus Maps will remember that name and address for that particular title. We've taken away some of the other reports and everything that were basically not in use. So you've got a nice, tidier looking section here for the downloads. And then all of this is pretty much the same as before. So I won't go into too much detail on it. You've got the expandable sections here that you can just simply toggle on those, either the heading or on the plus symbol there. Either or then expands it out to allow you to see the details for whatever section you've opened up. But it's just more following that same design as everything else. So it's much cleaner, it's much fresher. And yeah, just trying to basically modernize that the platform from what it was before, which is the fruits of having a design team in-house. Now we can get a lot more of the design that we want than what we did before. So we've talked through the filters, icon, search. The next point really, which is arguably one of the sort of biggest changes, is the overlay. So again, focusing on that look and feel. We've also tweaked the way the overlays work and hopefully made them much more intuitive and much easier to use. So again, if we were, I'll tell you what, let's put on, reset this. We'll just do a search in the middle of here. And so now we've got our search here with everything else going on. And let's say, I don't know, let's say we're looking to try and find out what's going on with these plots of land over here. Seems to be all sort of divided up or something, but we want to see what's going on. Are we in the green belt? Are we not? All of those kind of things. That's when then we start looking at the overlays. The overlays you'll see now, the more sort of square, before there were sort of big sort of rectangular sort of sections, they've all got the little tool tips on there as well. So now we know exactly what it is. And if you're a bit unsure, just hover over those little question marks. I'll give you a little brief description of each of the overlays. So on here, we want to maybe know what's the pound per square foot for this area. And you see we have now got this little key section here as well, which you can collapse. There we go. So you can close that down or open it up. The other great thing as well is as you're moving around the map, it will show you when it's fully loaded. But you can now, a bit like what we've got with the right-hand side here, where we can toggle on pins, you can also do the same now with toggling on the overlays, just using this little eye icon here. And then when you've got multiple ones on there, so if we stick this one on as well, while that one loads in, you can also then, deal with all of them at the same time. So you can see now, we can see that this one's loading in. We'll know when it's fully loaded in. This will all go white. Fantastic. So we can, like I say, individually toggle them on and off, or alternatively, we've got the full section up at the top here, where then you can, basically manage all of your overlays at once, or expand them all out, or hide them all. So now they're all completely off the map again. We can have a look, see where we were, get a bit of a clearer sight of the site, but then sort of remind ourselves again, let's toggle this back on, and it loads up. I think my machine's running quite slow now. I'm on Zoom and everything else, and then it's loaded those back on, or it's in the process of doing that. So we've got a clear understanding of what's going on. There we are. Fabulous. And that's basically the same. So there's no limit on the number of overlays, obviously, that we can plot on. And we want greenbelt on there as well. And it will just keep expanding out, and then it becomes scrollable with all of the different keys. But obviously we can keep just dropping all of these down. If we know what they mean, then that's absolutely fine. And what you'll also notice, or certainly sort of previous users, is we've changed the layering of a lot of the overlays as well. So now we've got a much more structure around the layering. So before we were just creating more and more overlays and not really giving much thought to how they layered. Now we've basically applied that so that there is sort of, like, for example, the spots will always sit above your sort of more macro level overlays there as well. So what's quite interesting is the green belt. So if we just take off maybe some of these other ones, we can see the green belt at the right-hand side there, can't we? So, we can be more interested. There's a big scheme coming forward here, so I wouldn't be surprised. I've got a feeling Engine will be developing out around this way and not that way. Oh, there's a scheme over here as well. So clearly someone is erection of 100 units, although that was back in 2008, which is probably this scheme in here. But yeah, much more straightforward. As you're moving around the map, and you're unsure whether it's loaded or not, then obviously again you'll get a much more of a better indication with these little sections, sort of little circles there where it's loading in. So clearly my machine is clearly struggling with bandwidth to get them all loaded in, but again we can just toggle them all on or off using the top section there. And then if we finish with them completely, so this is quite handy, especially if you're in the info panel, you're checking a property and you want to keep this sort of overlays on and off. We can obviously do that and manage them all there now. You're not always having to be in that workflow section or the overlay section. It's just much more straightforward that it's here, which now leaves you, when you are sort of around the map, you've got this ability to toggle on and off overlays, maybe those key ones that you want to see on this side, with then all the other map tools on the other side as well. So you've got a much clearer ability to sort of choose and see what you want to see on the map. And then when you want to get rid of them completely, just simply press the bin and they're gone now. And then we'd have to go back into the overlay section to get those toggled back on so that we can see those on there. And obviously if you want to toggle them off from here as well, you're more than welcome to do that. Yeah, you'll also notice as well, we have introduced a lot more keys explaining what you see on the overlay as well. So again, we sort of introduced the overlays without then the keys. That's obviously changed now. We'll always bring the key to show you where that is as well. And then the final point I want to mention is workflow, where we've introduced a few little updates. There's more updates coming on the next release as well. But to be honest, the workflow is quite a big section of the platform now, and therefore there's a small little mini team who are just focused on the workflow and trying to bring those updates. And yeah, unfortunately, there are just bigger updates that kind of then fall into the next release. But what we have done is just made things hopefully a little bit easier for people using this. So one of the things we found when you did click on to edit a particular title, basically you could change that title number. And if you change the title number, then essentially it would lose where it was, and then you'd have to go and find that particular property again. So that's now not editable. So there's no risk of all of a sudden potentially losing that, because that is always the same. Not only that, you've now got a much better search function within the workflow. So the search function previously, if we'd typed in, let's have a look, Alexander Road, we'll only get one. Whereas previously, what you probably would have found is you'd get partial matches as well. So it then bring up everything that mentioned the word road. Whereas now, if you actually type in the full address, then you'll only get the title that you're after. And then obviously we can go off to Alexander Road, Birmingham, where I have no idea whether this is an opportunity, but clearly this is a potential opportunity that I've saved in the past. For whatever reason, maybe it's a HMO opportunity or something there as well. And so, yeah, like I say, there's those minor updates just to help make it a bit more straightforward. Whoops, just clicked on something else in there. A bit more straightforward to use. But then we've got further updates coming in the next one, which is going to pick up things like the load all button, and a few other tweaks of the way it works as well, with hopefully a nice little design refresh for workflow as well. And that is it for the most part, to be honest, in terms of the update. Ultimately, we've got lots of new features coming over the course of this year, but we've just changed the processes around the way we release the updates. The design that goes into them, means that it just spends a bit more time going through that process to make sure that they're right when it goes in the platform. And obviously then there's a whole sort of design element that goes into it that we didn't necessarily have before. So then hopefully we'll have a much better look and feel for every new feature that comes forward as well. And like I say, that's pretty much it for the new features this week. I don't think there is anything else. So what I will do, as I can see there are some questions coming now, I will just get round to those. and then we can answer those questions. What I'll quickly just do first is I'll talk through the sale as well. So if there's any questions on that, more than happy to answer those, and then we'll get through all of that together. So let's just quickly run through the rest of this, and then I'll run through all the questions. Keep your questions coming. That's fantastic. We're getting a lot of questions. My machine does seem to be running very slow, so please bear with me 2 seconds while it tries to load up. Here we go. Right, 5th anniversary sale. So for those of you who are on trial or on essentials, essentially we are 5, or we were about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And to celebrate that, we've essentially got an amazing offer for you at the moment, where Nimbus Elite, so this is just the platform itself, is £99 a month, which is £1,188 a year. So you can pay by credit card or direct debit, which would mean it's £99 a month. Alternatively, if you do want to just go for that flexible monthly rate, so a bit like Netflix, cancel at any time, and that's £120 a month there as well. So that gets you the platform. Everything we've seen today was all the platform. What you can also do is then add on Elite Plus strategies, which I'll come on to in a second. But with Nimbus Maps Elite, you get obviously 12 months access to Nimbus. You get one-on-one support from the customer success team. To be honest, check out Trustpilot. We get a lot of great feedback from the dealings that people have with the success team. You know, I'm there as well. So if there's any questions people have around finding sites, getting the most out of the platform, all of that, we're there to help you 100% of the way. You also have weekly webinars, generally hosted by Paul, the co-founder. We have various guests with helps around finding sites, around funding, around planning, around legal aspects, you name it, you know, anything that's to do with that sort of front end of property development and investment. We're working with various guests each and every week. And not only that, when you do sign up, you'll get access to a 3-part training series led by the co-founder. You know, for anyone who isn't on Nimbus Maps, they'll be paying $497. But if you are on Nimbus Maps, then you get access to that. And to be honest, the next one is on the 2nd of July. So actually, next week, isn't it? So then, yeah, what a great time to sign up, take advantage of the offer, which, like I said, is not $1,440, it's $1,188 at the moment. You then get a week to play around with it, and then straight onto that training workshops. And like I said, there's parts A and B require a lot of work for you to sort of work through and figure things out. And then part C is an opportunity to then get that feedback and find out how it's done with Paul as well. But there's a lot of hints and tips and everything as well. And then this is the Elite Plus. So if you need help finding sites, or if you want to sort of essentially turbocharge that ability to find sites, that's what Elite Plus is there. If it's a strategy that you're doing as well, and absolutely take advantage. There's basically pinpoints where the sites are for you, depending on that strategy. There are 8 different strategies, which refer to essentially commercial to residential, PD rights opportunities, airspace opportunities, which are PD rights, development plots, so big back gardens, side gardens that you can then develop out houses in the back. What else have we got? HMOs, both existing HMOs where there's potential to extend, and also where there's potential in Article 4 areas for planning applications for converting C3 to C4 or C3 all the way to sui generis, depending on how big as well. So absolutely check out the Elite Plus strategies because they are on quite frankly ridiculous offer, to be honest, at the moment. 12 months for the price of 3, $450 for the year, whereas previously that would be for a quarter. And then, like I say, next steps for everyone from here: take a trial, book a one-on-one demonstration with the team. They'll talk you through, they'll make sure you know how to use the site for exactly what you're looking to do. And then obviously you've got the 5th anniversary sale, which ends today. But to be honest, the diaries, I'll be completely honest, are quite full up today. So for anyone who is looking to book and sign up, even if you book and end up having to sign up on Monday, we'll still honour that deal because we accept that there's only so much capacity we've got in the team. So yeah, and we seem to be slightly busier than we expected. So what I would recommend though is definitely the sooner you sign up, the sooner we'll or the more likely we'll honour that deal for next week. What I will do is I will post in the links in the chat, so people have got those, and to make it even easier, I'll launch the poll as well. So if you would like a one-on-one demonstration of Nimbus, just tick yes, or tick no if you don't want us to contact you. Likewise, for anyone who is maybe on the Essentials platform and has liked what they've seen today and want to take a bit of a trial and sort of have a play around with it yourself, definitely tick yes on the trial and we'll get you set up. And likewise, anyone who has already been on trial, maybe has seen enough and said, right, I definitely want to take advantage, then the third question is for you. Tick yes on that one there. And we'll get signed up. Obviously, I know there's some people here who are already on Nimbus Elite and all of that. It's then just Nimbus Elite Plus. If you do want to sign up to Nimbus Elite Plus, then just use that second one, that third question. Yes, I want to sign up to that one. So, right, while that's running in the background a second, let me get up all the questions and we'll run through as many of these as we can. So I'll start in the Q&A section, but we'll come on to the chat. So yes, Darren, I'll come on to your question in a second. Right. So hi, how do you analyze the data for the overlays? Do you have some pre-processing for marking data, or do you calculate properties on the fly? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that one. What I might do is maybe I'll answer a few of the other questions, and I'll maybe give you the opportunity to raise your hand and maybe ask the question. We can have a discussion rather than trying to go back and forward on the chat there, and we'll maybe come on to that question at the end. Are you able to draw a site? This is from an anonymous. Are you able to draw a site, e.g. back garden, land assembly, and then save the site in workflow? So at the moment you can't save multiple sites to workflow, but what you can do is just save each of the individual titles. So the workflow operates off titles alone. So say, for example, here, say we said, right, okay, we're thinking, we can get bring a site in here. Then ultimately, what I'd be doing is then say, taking this particular opportunity. Well, I've already got it in here, but then, so let's edit this one and say, site assembly, title 1. And then likewise, when we search here, so we can pick up the other one, we could then say to workflow. I'm not quite sure which one it was in, but let's save it in here, and then site assembly. Whoops. Title 2. And then in our workflow section, I'm pretty sure it was a red pin on there before, wasn't it? Site assembly title 1, and then Harborton Road. That'll be why. Let me put that in there. The 2 pins, they're both in the same section as opportunities, and then we can see both of those, and we'll see the 2 pins against it. And obviously you can put the notes in there as well for that. So I think, that's the way to do it at the moment, but that is something we're looking at in the future, is to save sort of site assemblies, and not only that, to save just maybe unregistered pieces of land and things like that as well. So almost just sort of saving just areas as opposed to saving a title per se. So at the moment it's on title, but there's a lot of work in the back end to make that change. So yeah, so watch this space on that one. what are the further features that are coming? To be honest, the next key bits coming forward, we have a Class MA, Elite Plus strategy coming hopefully the next month. Well, it will be the next month before the 1st of August. So essentially a bit like with the strategy overlays, to find things like your shops with uppers and all of that kind of stuff. Let's have a look. Shops with uppers. It normally finds one pretty much wherever we are. Must be something. There we go. Down in Summertown. So a bit like this, we'll then have one for Class MA and also Class E sort of conversion opportunities as well. So whether you can go from one sort of old use class to another use class within Class E, now that it's all part of the same use class. I don't know how easy that was to follow, but essentially what was, say, A1 before can now be turned into B1 because it's all in the same use class. So then we're trying to find where are those opportunities to maybe go from A1 to B1 or B1 to A1. You know, so where's there a difference in values between retail and office and D1 and 2? And then almost then highlight the ones that could be converted into higher value uses as well. So that's coming. We're also, like I said, we've got some more updates coming for workflow. Next big things also include more advanced filter sections as well. So the filters will basically be expanding the filter section, basically to enable you more detailed searching and looking for particular types of property. You'll be able to do that with the more advanced search filters. And I think that's it in terms of what I can really sort of state at the moment. Beyond that, like I said, there's still significant bits of work going on. And in terms of the sort of priorities and everything else, depending on how the progress they make, then we'll see. But there is a lot of, like I say, work going on in the background, a lot of big fundamental changes to the structure in the background. So things like the planning data, you know, we're sort of changing the way we do that, which allows us to get much better at the planning information that we display, and the way we'll be able to filter it and all of that kind of stuff going forward as well. Actually, that reminds me, one of the overlays which will definitely be updated in the next release is the commercial availability. So the commercial availability at the moment is just A pins, and in the next release that'll then be switching to give you an idea of what kind of property is on the market. Let's get rid of that one. So at the moment we don't know whether that's for sale, whether it's to let, whether it's an office, whether it's a retail unit. You know, we have to click on that and we'll see. So you can already see the first bit of that work's already started. This is an office, so we're going to be bringing that to the pin. So you'll see from the pin whether it's just for sale, whether it's to lease, and then what kind of use class it is as well, right up front. And so, like I said, that's happening to the commercial availability. We're also working on, so that from a data perspective, we're working on a lot of the data to update a lot of these as well and improve what they are in the background. So vacant buildings and all that kind of stuff will be updated. Whether it'll be ready for the next release or not, we'll have to see how far they get with their work. But to be honest, we're trying to get everything out as soon as we possibly can. The guys are working flat out on it. Yeah, we're excited, you know, with the comments we get and, you know, with the feedback we get. We want to make sure we're responding to that and make sure that we're, you know, we absolutely follow what people ask for. So if everyone's asking for one particular thing, that then gets prioritized on that roadmap. We bring that forward. Hopefully, anonymous attendee, my waffly answer answered all your points on that one. Susan Alexander, yes, there is a recording of this. The session is being recorded, and therefore, once this session is finished, you'll get an email with a link through to the recording, so you can go back and see all the changes. Darren, potential improvements. Can you look at introducing settlement development boundaries, which are adopted from the local plans to assess yes. So this one, yeah, it's not as straightforward as a sort of as a sort of an update, because many councils don't necessarily refer to settlement boundaries, and therefore it becomes very difficult, to get that consistency across the map and say, well, where are the settlement boundaries in such and such, if then the council doesn't really define those in their local plan. But I know a lot of councils do. So we are working on that. We're working on a lot of local plans, or trying to bring the local plan information into Nimbus Maps as well. You can see, obviously, we've got a few bits, but yeah, given the way the council structure their local plans, it's a very big, arguably very expensive piece of work to try and bring all that through. So we're trying to find the best way that we can keep bringing all that local plan information into Nimbus Maps. So we do it absolutely 100% here. Everyone, I would arguably say it's pretty much the most requested, or one of the most requested features, is those settlement boundaries. It is absolutely top of the list. They're trying to find a way of getting that consistently across the map, or are we trying to find a way that we can then display it in a way that makes sense, whether there is settlement boundaries there or there isn't, because the local authority don't define them, and then it's more of a discussion with the local authority in that particular location. So yes, watch this space. As soon as we can find that solution, or as soon as I can tell you when we'll definitely have a solution, then I'll let you know, Darren, because yeah, we as a team want that in there as just as much as all the users as well. And then the same one with the TPOs. I mean, to be honest, for example, there was a piece of work done, I think it was last year, actually, around sort of TPOs. A lot of councils don't actually like to define what trees are TPO'd and which ones aren't, because they're worried that they're going to miss some. And what one particular council told the team was, actually, they'd rather just blanketly say, everything needs to be checked, so then they can make an assessment of the tree each and every time, rather than sort of having a definitive map. Now, we know some councils do have maps, and so it falls into that same sort of bucket around where we can bring them forward and we can get it into a format that makes sense, that, this council we definitely know has a TPO map, and therefore these are the TPOs. Fine, but this one doesn't, and therefore you need to sort of make a request to I don't know, the arboriculturalist at the council, and then we'll get that in as well. And obviously, if we can then obviously pull those maps through, because a lot of them are like PDFs, which are very difficult to then get into a form that then sits nicely in Nimbus Maps as well. But all it means is just a bit more work for the team, rather than necessarily it's not doable. So yeah, 100% here, Darren. And we'll keep pushing to get those into the Nimbus Maps as soon as we possibly can. Kevin's just basically saying, like the look and feel. Thank you, Kevin. And then Sam's saying, how long is the offer for? So the offer does run out today. But to be honest, we did have a quick sort of team discussion this morning, because the diaries are essentially pretty much full. That if anyone does book, so if you click on the links and try and book in, or if you answer the poll saying that you're interested, then we'll get around to you as quick as we can, and we'll obviously honour. So anyone who's filled in the poll today saying that they're interested, if we get around to speaking to you on Monday or Tuesday, then absolutely we'll honour the deal from this week. But the cutoff is today, really. Would like to try for a month. Is there any way to include the strategies for a month? Unfortunately, Sam, there isn't, just because of the way that the sort of strategies are structured. You're getting access to that information straight away, and it's across the whole map. We don't really sort of have a trial version. So you can see here, obviously, we could toggle it on, and even within a day, you could be finding, 50, 100 opportunities straight away. What I would suggest is almost booking a one-on-one call with the team. We could do a demonstration in and around the areas that you would like to look at, get a feel for, is there much in that area, really understand what it is that the strategy is showing you, to then make a decision off the back of it. rather than we can't toggle it onto your account because it's not fair to anyone else who's then paying to access this information. So definitely book a one-on-one call, and the team will run you through it. They can quite happily toggle it on in areas that you want, or toggle on different ones to work out which is the right strategy for you in your area. And we'll go through all that on the call. So hopefully that's all that. That's all in the chat. So yes, let me get the participants up. So Sir Hi, I'll ask you if you want to sort of ask the questions, or is there a particular overlay or something that you want to sort of talk about? I know you've said, how do you analyze the data for the overlays? Do you have some pre-processing that for marking data, or do you calculate the properties on the fly? Do you want to sort of elaborate further on that, and I can then hopefully try and answer that question for you?
Hi, yeah. So I want to explain a bit my question. So as I can understand, the overlays are just some kind of predefined filters.
So the Elite Plus ones effectively are, yes. So there's two elements to effectively overlays. So things like planning, so planning, this is pulling through planning applications from all the local authorities and then putting them on the map. So this is just literally just fact of, whatever applications have been submitted to council.
Yeah, but my question is, so to build the overlay, you need somehow to mark the data that this particular property is related to this overlay.
So which property do you mean? Like, for example, as in, do you mean like, say, like this one here, for example, the shops with opens?
Yeah. So, for example, here we have the filters is about the prices or something like this. So, are you searching on the fly in the database, or you have some pre-processing?
I think yeah. Well, these so the way Elite Plus works is these are calculated. I think they do the calculations each month, and then it's just those that are calculated. So if, for example, this property is sold tomorrow, and therefore, or I don't know, it gets planning and change of use or whatever, or they what's this, shops with uppers. So say, for example, someone takes this shop and redevelops the upper parts tomorrow, then this would still be on the overlay tomorrow, still be on the next day, be on the next day after that. It will be on until we next update it, which I think is monthly. We rerun the calculations and then determine everything that goes on in these overlays. So typically, you may click on one and then realize it's just received planning, or it's got planning for something else, or it's changed ownership. Largely, say for example, this shops with uppers one, it's based off the VOA information. So let's just have a quick check on, say, this plot here. So this one here, we can see 738 square feet on the upper parts, and they're paying £4 a square foot, which to acquire and develop that one is £160 a square foot, but values are close to £600 a square foot. Therefore, there's a significant difference between the two. But what's driving a lot of these calculations is this VOA information. So the VOA information, I'll have to remind myself exactly, but I think this is monthly as well. Basically, until that updates to say, actually, there is no longer a first floor space that's in low value use. If for whatever reason, say it went to offices and they were paying £15 a square foot, then all of a sudden this would probably throw this calculation out and it wouldn't be worth pursuing as an opportunity. But it's based on the VOA information. So even though we run the calculations every month.
So at some point, you may have the outdated information.
Yeah, so it's basically it's up to date. This particular overlay is as up to date as the VOA information. And the VOA information, I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say monthly, but I'll have to double check exactly. I can't remember the VOA. But so if that updates and all of a sudden these are removed, then obviously on the next time we run the calculations for the overlay, we'll then realize that that's changed. It won't meet the criteria. It'll then be removed from the overlay. So there always will be that sort of slight lag given the way that the data works.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, I understood.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I'm glad we were able to discuss that one. I think back and forth on text probably would have struggled to get there very quickly. Fantastic. So we've answered that one. Kevin's asked, how about the residential availability for repossessed properties that need modernisation? Yeah, so to be honest, the team are working on residential availability. Basically the vision is to have the same thing as the commercial availability. So when we toggle this on and we see, A pins everywhere, ultimately we want to have that same thing where at residential availability, we say, right, there's a lot of, I don't know, red A pins everywhere that then say these are all the houses that are on the market with Rightmove and Zoopla and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, like I say, there's a few hurdles to jump through to get that working really well. And so, yeah, unfortunately, that's probably taken a little bit longer just because of the hurdles that they're trying to overcome to make that work and work consistently across the platform. So watch this space. I don't know whether it'll be for the next release, but it could be a release later this year where we then try and get that residential availability into the platform, where then you'll be able to see. And then I think in terms of whether it's repossessed and needing modernisation, I'll have to double check because I can't remember the exact spec for what it is, but fundamentally we want to make sure we get residential availability into the platform, and then you can then focus on those rather than having to sort of keep flipping between Rightmove and here and all that kind of stuff. So we know, obviously, we've got a lot of stuff for people looking for HMOs. That becomes a key thing for them. If they want to target a particular street, it's then good to know which ones on that street are already on the market and which ones aren't. So yeah, watch this space, Kevin. We'll hopefully have something very soon. I was just asked, is it possible to toggle an overlay for repossessed or applications granted properties? Most quickly to have that, then go to property website or have alerts to come from those types of properties. I think I get what you mean. I think hopefully we've either sort of already answered it with the sort of point above, or the other point as well is, like I said, they're working on a set of more advanced filters, and along with that will then become more sort of filterable overlays as well. So like things like the commercial availability, we want to have it so you can see for sale and for lease, but then get that to a point where then you can then filter. So then rather than having to see everything and quickly see which one's which, well, then we want to be able to get to the point where we can filter that. So you can just say, well, look, I'm not even interested in the for lease ones. I only want to see the for sale ones, and you only see those. And then you can then obviously, that's even another step forward than just being able to see on the pin. And that will be the same. We want to have that with the residential availability as well. So anything that's sort of potentially repossessed or not, and then applications granted, again, we'll look to do the same thing on the planning. So the planning is another area that we're looking to expand on. At the moment, you've obviously got the planning search through the exports tab, and you can search for most recent applications or certain types of applications and pin them on the map. And you've also got then the planning overlay, which shows you all of the planning applications on the map. Well, again, if we can apply that filterable overlay to this one, you can then start filtering by saying, right, I only want to see residential applications. I only want to see applications that were granted, most recently, and all of that kind of stuff. So there are changes coming. They're quite big changes. They're going to take some time to develop out and build out. But yeah, you know, I'm probably going to get shot by the development team because they're still early stages with a lot of this kind of work, but that's the sort of the vision of where these things are going to go in time, and it's just a case of trying to get through the work as quick as we can, and you know, that is obviously a good and intuitive design as well. Fantastic, thank you, Angela. And Kevin, we've answered as well. So that's all the questions in the Q&A section. In the chat, there's no more. Let me just check. Fantastic, no more in there as well. So I'm assuming then, oops, sorry, I've left that polling up there for everyone, so I'll get that out of the way. Fantastic. It looks like we've answered all the questions. We've got 3 minutes before the end of the session as well, so perfectly timed. Want to thank everyone for joining me today. Great questions and feedback. We always absolutely listen to feedback. The one thing I will just end on is you've got the chat bubble in the bottom right hand corner. That goes through to the support and the success team. Absolutely put any questions in there, any suggestions, updates, requested updates, all of that kind of stuff. Put all that in there. That gets fed back to the rest of the team to help us then prioritize that roadmap going forward. So anything you do want to see, put in there, or any queries or whatever, they're there to answer those questions for you. But fantastic session today. Great to run through all the new features we're coming. We are going to have another release in July and then another release in August. Those we are pretty committed to. And then after that, then, you know, the dates start then becoming a bit looser. But yeah, this is the first of many updates that are coming. So thank you all for joining me today. My name's been Andrew Green. We've been Nimbus Maps, and hopefully we'll see you all again very soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.